coming out this afternoon for this briefing on Hurricane Laura. We have a full crew with you today that can answer questions. I can tell you, speaking to you later today will be Benjamin Schott. Ben, as you all know, is from the National Weather Service, but also scheduled to brief you today will be Secretary of Transportation Dr. Shawn Wilson. And of course, we got the rest of the team here today, and we want to thank the State Police and Colonel Reese for hosting us for these press conferences. As everyone should know right now, and this graphic was just updated at 4 p.m., but Hurricane Laura is forecasted and on track to be a mid-level Category 3 hurricane at landfall. This is a major, it's going to be a large, powerful storm, and it is forecasted to make landfall on the Louisiana-Texas line at about 1 a.m. on Thursday morning. There haven't been any significant changes to its track over the course of the day. There was a very slight movement towards the east, which obviously every mile that it comes to the east, that means that the severe impacts get pushed into Louisiana. Parts of Louisiana will begin seeing impacts from the storm. Winds, and then obviously throughout the day that will increase. Just from a historical perspective, Laura is shaping up to look a lot like Rita did 15 years ago in terms of its forecasted intensity and the forecasted spot where it will make landfall in southwest Louisiana. And again, we don't say that to scare anybody, but that point of reference sometimes helps in order to make sure people understand the seriousness of the situation and that they take the necessary precautions and take advantage of the time that we've been given to prepare. This is one of the blessings in this particular scenario, because there was a time not long ago when we were afraid that Hurricane Marco would come and we would have a very brief window to respond to Marco and then try to reset before Laura, but we actually have a better opportunity to do that now. We need to take full advantage. All of coastal Louisiana should brace for storm surge. And this is going to be a significant amount of storm surge. And from the Texas line to Morgan City is where that's going to be most pronounced. And Ben's going to get more into that in just a moment. And earlier we thought that storm surge was going to be the major impact, and it still will be, but the wind less so. But with this being a strong Category 3, the impact from the wind is going to be much more pronounced than we thought, and will extend across more of Louisiana than we originally thought, because it's a very powerful storm, and hurricane force winds are forecasted to continue all the way up just about to Shreveport. I'm not sure the last time that we saw that. Hurricane warnings are in effect, as you know, for most of southwest Louisiana, and the winds will be strong. I'm going to let Ben get into that in just a moment. But just to give you an idea, from Baton Rouge to west of Houston, there will be very strong winds associated with this particular storm. Do want to encourage people before Ben briefs not to get too fixated on the cone, because there will be impacts, severe impacts outside the cone, and also because the storm historically will make landfall only 2/3 of the time within the cone. Just understand what the forecast is, and that this is a serious storm that's going to have impacts much broader than the cone itself. The rainfall will be significant as well, and the good thing we have going for us is the forward speed of the storm that's forecasted when it hits Louisiana, and how quickly it should travel and exit into Arkansas. But that doesn't mean that we won't have significant rain, and understand that when the rivers can't flow because the storm surge is holding them up, it doesn't take a whole lot of rain for those rivers to continue to swell and have that localized flooding that you wouldn't want to see. And even with a quick-moving storm, sometimes rain bands can sort of, in isolation of the storm, seem to be stationary. And if that stationary band parks itself over a given area, then much more rain will fall in that area. And as you're going to hear, that could be up to 15 inches in certain places. You know, that's the very high level. The meteorological expert is going to come up, Ben, and give you a more detailed briefing. On the backside of that briefing, I'll come back and give you some more comments, and then bring up Dr. Sean Wilson. So, Ben, if you will.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. I am Benjamin Schott, the meteorologist in charge of the National Weather Service office in New Orleans, and we are here to discuss the impacts of Hurricane Laura that will make landfall sometime early morning on Thursday. As you can see at the track here on the screen, right now we are dealing with a hurricane that sits in the middle of the Gulf, a very warm Gulf of Mexico with above normal sea surface temperatures, and little to impede its development over the course of the next 24 to 30 hours. There's no real wind shear for it to even hamper its development until maybe right as it approaches the Louisiana coast. But by then, it would be probably a little bit too late to actually diminish its strength with it already becoming onshore at that time frame. When it does reach shore, right now is forecasted to have winds of 115 miles per hour with gusts approaching 140 miles per hour. With its speed right now, at the time, coming on shore at about 15 to 20 miles per hour, it will quickly work its way inland, and those strong winds will do most likely devastating to catastrophic damage inland, maybe even 20, 30, 50 miles in. A great recent example of a major hurricane doing this was Hurricane Michael in 2018, as it came into the Florida Panhandle and worked its way and did destructive damage in a huge swath all the way into Georgia. Now, that hurricane was a Cat 5, granted, but this will still have a very similar effect going well inland with very destructive winds. On top of that, the wind field, as the governor mentioned, will be quite large, and it's possible there can be even tropical storm force winds felt as far east as the Atchafalaya and in the Baton Rouge area. It's right on the edge of where we could see the easterly extent of tropical storm winds. Hurricane force winds will probably make it in at least as far as Alexandria, and maybe, as the governor mentioned, as close to Shreveport before it fully becomes a tropical storm and moves into the state of Arkansas. With that, I'd like to kind of move on to maybe the next slide, if that's at all possible, and just talk about some of the key takeaways from this storm. Some of them have already kind of been mentioned, but I'd like to kind of hit on some of the specifics when it comes to the storm surge. As the governor mentioned, it's going to be again, life-threatening, if not straight down catastrophic for southeast Louisiana, with 9 to 13 feet of storm surge at the coast. It's possible that this storm surge can move in well far inland and even up rivers up to 30 miles. So there's going to be a significant amount of the southwestern portions of the state that are going to be heavily impacted by this. And so with that, any interests along the coast need to take this very seriously. The storm surge will also be seen along the entire Louisiana coast, with surge even at a level that could create life-threatening conditions even as far east as Morgan City, and there'll even be effects not just on the west bank of the Mississippi River, but also wrapped around southeast Louisiana into the east bank, and as well as part of the tidal lakes there. That's how large the wind field and strong this storm is. With that threat already mentioned of the wind and the surge, there's also the heavy rainfall. And as the governor mentioned, 5 to 10 inches of rain will be quite common over portions of southwestern Louisiana. If you get under those heavy rain bands, quick flash flooding can occur. Anyone trying to attempt to travel during this storm is putting their life at risk, and anyone in that vehicle at risk. You do not know how deep that water is. You do not know how fast that water is moving across the road, and you don't even know if the roadway is still there, depending on even whether it's day or night. So travel during this, whether it be from the wind threat, the surge threat, or the heavy rainfall threat, is highly discouraged. The National Weather Service recommends that everybody follows all local officials' decrees. And the window for this, as the governor mentioned, is closing. It's short. We do have a little bit more time between now and tomorrow morning, maybe to lunchtime tomorrow. Any preparations that need to be done will probably have to be wrapped up at that time because, as he had mentioned, tropical storm force winds will be possible on the coast. And then things will be obviously degrading rapidly as we move through the day tomorrow and as we approach landfall of Laura on Thursday morning. With that, I'll turn it back over to the governor, and thank you.